If you've been scrolling through endless listings trying to find a Pilates reformer that won't turn your living room into a warehouse, you're probably feeling a mix of hope and doubt. You want something that actually works day after day, that fits into the space you have, and that doesn't bleed your budget dry, but you also don't want to end up with a piece of equipment that looks great on the box and then sits unused because it's too finicky or too big. That's the exact spot where the balanced body Allegro stretch reformer lands, and it's worth unpacking why it might be the answer to that dilemma or why it could be a misstep for you. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the Allegro stretch is marketed as a homier studio reformer with a compact 14-inch leg profile. In real life, that translates to a footprint that can squeeze into a spare bedroom or a dedicated corner of a home gym without demanding a full-size wall. I spent a weekend setting it up in a modest 2-room apartment, and the assembly turned out to be a single-hour affair with the included tools. The legs fold flat, the carriage slides on the rail with a smooth but audible glide, and the footbar, something that often feels flimsy on cheaper models, holds firm even when I press down with both feet during a full-body stretch. For anyone who has tried to jam a bulky reformer through a narrow hallway, the Allegro's slim legs are a genuine practical win. Now, what does that mean for daily use? If you're the type who does a 30-minute Pilates flow every morning before work, you'll notice the carriage's resistance can be dialed in quickly using the spring set that comes pre-installed. The springs are housed in a compact rack, so you're not juggling extra plates or worrying about loose connections. When I moved from a gentle spine articulation to a more demanding leg press, the change in tension was instantaneous, no need to pause and hunt for extra hardware. That kind of convenience matters when you're trying to stick to a routine rather than treating your workout like a lab experiment. One of the hidden trade-offs shows up when you think about height and range of motion. The Allegro's frame is designed for a wide spectrum of users, but the 14-inch leg height does limit the maximum carriage travel for very tall people. If you're over 6 feet, you might feel that the footbar comes up a bit sooner than on a larger reformer, which can slightly compress the depth of a full leg press. It's not a deal breaker for most, but it's something to keep in mind if you rely on the deepest possible range for your practice. Who should consider buying this reformer? If you're a Pilates enthusiast who already knows the basics like a regular classgoer or a therapist recommending home exercise for clients, this model gives you the tools to expand that practice at home. The sturdy footbar and reliable rail system make it suitable for rehab scenarios where stability is non-negotiable. I've seen physiotherapists use similar balanced body units for postoperative shoulder work because the carriage can be positioned low enough to accommodate limited mobility without sacrificing support. Likewise, if you teach small group sessions in a studio that doesn't have the luxury of a full-size reformer, the Allegro's footprint lets you move it around easily between classes. On the flip side, if you're a beginner who is still figuring out the fundamentals of Pilates, you might find the initial cost a bit steep compared to a matronly setup or a more basic mini reformer. The Allegro is priced in the premium tier, and while the construction feels robust, you're still paying for that durability. If you're not certain you'll stick with a regular Pilates routine, a less expensive entry point could be a smarter first step. Also, if your space is truly limited to a closet-sized nook, even the compact legs may still dominate the area. Remember, the carriage still needs a clear path for the full glide. Let's talk about the practical strengths that stand out after a few weeks of use. The footbar, as I mentioned, doesn't wobble. During a supine 100, where you press down and lift the legs repeatedly, the bar stays rock solid, which builds confidence when you're pushing the limits of your core. The springs are also pretensioned, so there's no guesswork about which spring goes where. You simply add or remove them to increase or decrease resistance. This is a subtle but meaningful time saver for busy households where you might be squeezing a session in between work calls. The carriage's glide feels consistent from the first rep to the last, without the occasional stickiness that cheaper aluminum rails can develop over time. On the downside, the carriage's padding, while adequate for most moves, can feel a bit thin when you're doing high-impact legwork that puts a lot of pressure on the seat. Some users have reported that a thin gel cushion placed on top improves comfort without altering the